YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. Just a day before the NFL trade deadline, less than 24 hours away. The deadline is Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and a lot of big names, big-time players have been thrown out there in terms of the NFL trade rumors. Some teams calling to see if those players are available, and some teams actually making their big-time players available. So what I did here in this video, we're going to go through 10 big-time players that have been rumored to be available or could be available, and we're going to break down what teams could trade for them, what I think will actually happen. So 10 of these to get through here. We also graded some of the recent trades today and last week. We're also going to grade some more trades that go down. We also have full coverage of the NFL all year long, all season long, with predictions, power rankings, recaps, and more. So if you can join us for that. We have extra content available on our Patreon, patreon.com/thegoathouse. If you want score predictions, playoff predictions, and NFL mock drafts updated every single week, you can sign up and get that all in one package deal there. So check it out, link in the description. And we're trying to get to that 40K subscriber goal by the end of the year. Help us get there. We're getting close. Appreciate you guys very much. If you can just subscribe and help us out, we got you covered with the NFL content. The first player we're talking about is Trent Williams, one of the hottest names and has been in the last couple months even. And on the right, you'll see the best fits. You're going to see a lot of the same teams pop up throughout this video, and that has to do with the teams that are obviously looking to trade, and it has to work in terms of the cap space for a lot of these. So you'll see some of the similar teams. Those are the best fits in terms of fitting the system, have the cap space, have the trade ammo, and are willing to possibly acquire this person. And this one is Trent Williams, possibly the best left tackle in football, but that's kind of just me assuming things. We haven't seen him play in a little bit, and he's had his injury concerns. He hasn't been happy with the Redskins' medical staff, supposedly, and he wants kind of a buff deal as well. So the way I value him is 2 second-round picks, somewhere around there. Probably more could be added to it. The Redskins have been saying they want at least a first-round pick. But me, looking at it, I'm not ruling that out. Definitely could happen. But looking at it, from the perspectives of other teams, which is that they have leverage over the Redskins. He is not playing. He's not going to play. He does have some slight injury concerns as well. He wants a little more money. I think he'll be happy with the right team, or maybe he won't want more money. But you have to look at it from that perspective. And now that the Redskins have come out and said, okay, we may be a little more open to dealing him, I think he could be had for maybe a 2020 second-round pick and a 2021 second-round pick. Maybe you have to add a little more. I just don't know if I see some of these teams trading a first-round pick. The only one I can see doing is the Patriots, because they know they have a late first-round pick. So I'm not going to rule it out, but I know leverage is the key here, and the Redskins really don't have the leverage. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't have to trade him, but it almost feels like they do, and they definitely could use the draft pick. My prediction, I think the Browns could be that team that overspends for him, actually. I think they could, go the 2 second-round picks and then maybe even more. So a lot of future picks. Who knows? Maybe Dorsey will throw in that first-round pick. I said I'm not ruling it out. I just don't see why you would do that, but I think they're more likely to do that. The Patriots, I think, if it's them, I think it would have to be a first-round pick, because it's such a late pick, and they don't have a second this year. So if the Patriots were to make a deal, I think it would have to be a first-round pick, and I don't think they really want to do that. It's definitely possible, but the main reason being Tom Brady could be done after this year. They may need to hang on to that first-round pick to figure out their quarterback situation. Not necessarily talking about in the draft quarterback. It could be from the outside, and we've kind of talked about that in the past. So those are teams that fit best. Like the Cardinals got pretty good linemen on paper. They just haven't been playing that good this year. Seahawks really need a right tackle, but they can make some things work. And the Jets, pretty obvious, they need a lineman, but I think they're kind of more of a go get the young guys, in my opinion. But those are teams that fit best for Trent Williams. Prediction, Browns, and again, could stay put because the Redskins may want too much, and the Patriots, you kind of can tell, I thought were one of the favorites as well. The next, we've got 3 Redskins here, 2 more to go over. We'll get the Redskins out of the way first. Ryan Kerrigan, his name came up on the trading block recently. The Redskins, they lost another game. They even had Keenum with a concussion. They had to throw Haskins in there. That was kind of out of nowhere. It almost feels like they're heading in that direction where They just kind of rebuild. They want to rebuild here. So that's why Ryan Kerrigan's name has been tossed in there. His value's tough. He's been a top-tier pass rusher. He's in his 30s now. He has somewhat of a big contract. Value, I think a second and a third rounder would have to be included, and it could be and some, in terms of possible, late round picks, late mid, possibly. But I think a second and a third could actually do it. And as you can see, so no one's confused, my prediction is they don't trade him. I think he's a key part of that Redskins defense team, the locker room. And then the Lions are listed because I think if he were to get traded, that's the main team to look out for. I'd say the best fit to me. But you see the other best fits there. Yeah, I do like the Lions. Their pass rush has been a little disappointing, a little underwhelming. It started off real good, and they have some unique players. They got a long list of players that can get after the quarterback, but they're just not. They don't have that guy that's going to consistently get pressure. And the Lions, I think he fits the Lions defense. It's kind of a hybrid defense. Even though, Kerrigan, I would kind of, categorize as kind of a hybrid pass rusher. I think he can play a D end or a outside linebacker in a 3-4, which he's currently in. And the Lions run that type of defense. The Colts run that type of defense. And something that's kind of, similar to all these teams, pretty much the same thing, is all these teams have the cap space to be able to pay him because of his contract over the next few years. So you see these teams have a good amount of cap room. And these teams also can use another pass rusher. Colts, they could get better at the pass rush position. They're not always getting consistent pressure. They have the cap space. They may be able to make a deal here. Texans losing J.J. Watt, even though they're different positions, it's still a source of pass rush, and they need that right now. It's basically just merciless with them trading Clowney and with J.J. Watt injured for the rest of the year. So the Texans, even though they're low on ammo, the Tennessee Titans, I think he fits that defense. Most of their pass rush comes from interior in terms of the D-line and the inside linebackers on blitzes. I know I like Harold Landry. They have Cameron Wake, but that can be a top-tier defense with a guy like Ryan Kerrigan. I think they're the least likely to make a trade for him, though, out of these teams here because they have been a little better on the pass rush compared to some of these other teams. The Bills, I think it can be that future Lorenzo Alexander, fill his spot, kind of that hybrid, outside linebacker / pass rusher. The Bills also have the cap space. Do they want to keep building throughout the draft because they've done a great job doing that? And the Raiders, they can actually turn Khalil Mack into Ryan Kerrigan and some picks. Obviously, they still have Bears picks this year, even though they had them last year too, and that could look pretty good. And they're on the lower end of the pass rush. So the Raiders, another team to look out for. I'd say the main teams. I'd say the least likely out of these teams are the Texans because of the least amount of ammo, and the Titans because their defense is already very good. And so are some of the other teams, and they're already getting a decent amount of pressure. So the Colts, because they can use them and they have a bunch of cap space, but the Lions, to me, are the team that would go out there and do this because their offense is actually finally playing consistently at a high level. We've seen it here and there in the past. It's kind of their defense that's let them down. Now they just need that pass rush to take that next step for their defense. So I'd say the Lions could be possibly the best fit here, but keep an eye on some of these other teams. But again, I think at the end of the day, he stays. Too important to that organization, really, is what it comes down to. But some good teams to look out for. And then the other Redskins player here, and I value at around a 6th-round pick right now. I think his talent's a little better than that. He is not the same as he used to be. But because of his contract for this year and next year, then a free agent, pretty beefy contract for, doesn't really match his play right now. So it's almost like the Redskins are trying to drop him. And there's some teams that I think would be interested or need a corner. I said my prediction is either there's no takers or the Bills. I try to have a taker here if I had, most of these guys won't get traded, but if every guy I had no takers or stays, it'd be a little boring. I think the Bills make a lot of sense to me because they have the cap space and they don't necessarily need like a guy that's going to be a big time corner. They just need another corner, and they could afford to do this. Just pay him this year, pay him next year with a ton of cap space you have. And then they're free of it, and they definitely can use kind of his knowledge and leadership in there at the corner position. There's really a lack of a corner rotation on that team, so I kind of said the Bills made the most sense. Texans looking for corners. They did trade for Garyon Conley. They do have a lack of ammo. The Cowboys, kind of a Jerry Jones move, low risk move for Jerry Jones. Try to revive Josh Norman. And they definitely can use another corner here. Byron Jones going to be a free agent soon. Eagles obviously need a corner. I just don't see them going this route, and they save their money, but they're definitely a fit in terms of the need and the cap space. And the Chiefs, same thing. The Chiefs are a team that need a corner, but they need offensive linemen as well. They need to sign extend Mahomes in the future. They kind of want to hang on to their cap space. So least likely being is the Chiefs on this list, but teams look out for. It just made clearly the most sense out of these teams, the Bills, to do it. Not saying they have to do it. They should do it. I'm not saying they should do it. Just saying it made the most sense out of these teams. So no takers or the Bills is what I'm thinking here for Josh Norman. Some other team players here. Darius Slay has been thrown out there recently, which is kind of a surprising one. Top tier corner. I honestly wouldn't trade a second-round pick for him, but I think that's where the value is. I'm actually starting to hear that the Lions actually got calls. They're not trying to trade him, but they said they would be open to trading him if it was for a good amount. Some people think that's a first-round pick. I think a first-round pick's just maybe way too much. We're talking about a first-round pick here. Darius Slay is a very good corner, one of the best corners on the field when he's on the field. Seems like he's coming out, off the field here, quite a bit recently. So I would be more open to equaling that second-round value with other than a second-round pick, a third-round pick, maybe a fifth-round pick, maybe another pick in there too, future pick. I think he stays. Like I was saying, the Lions don't, they don't really want to trade him unless it's for a good amount. But I would keep an eye on the Eagles because they know they get a big-time playmaker. Here they don't call him Big Play Slay for nothing. And they would be willing to possibly trade that second-round pick and some, but it's a little much. But the Eagles are definitely the team, and we see a lot of the similar teams here. Throw the Seahawks and the Bucks in there. They could be interested in a big-time corner like this. Those teams would have to make a little wiggle room with the cap. In terms of the cap space, they're pretty close. But, the rest of the teams I would keep an eye on, but I really don't think anything happens here. I think the Eagles and the Chiefs maybe are the main teams to keep an eye on. The Bills, again, they could get better opposite. They're taking over Levi Wallace's spot, even though he's actually been impressive. Opposite of Tre'Davious White. But yeah, Levi Wallace's been impressive, but you can always get better. But mainly for them, why I kind of like them more for the Norman deal is because you don't really necessarily need a big time corner, a starting corner. You kind of just need another guy in there. But you can get better with Darius Slay. But again, I think he stays. The Eagles are definitely the team to watch out for him. Another corner, there's a long list of corners on the trading block. Chris Harris Jr., I definitely think he gets traded. I'm not guaranteeing the Seahawks, as you can see. Seahawks there. I think the Broncos going in that rebuild route. They've shown it with Sanders. Jawan James comes back, and that kind of gave him promise, and he already re-aggravated that same knee. And then Joe Flacco gets hurt, and they're considering putting him on the IR when he doesn't really need to go on the IR. I think they're going to trade some of these guys. I heard Derek Wolfe as well. I did not talk about Derek Wolfe. I don't know if he gets traded in this trade deadline, so I didn't talk about him in this video. He just had a very good performance against the Colts, and I've heard the Colts have been interested in him, so I'd watch out for the Colts for Derek Wolfe, actually, but I don't know if a deal goes down there. Chris Harris, still a top-tier corner. Second-round pick, it could be a little less because his expiring contract, but he's a top-tier corner. He's going to help one of these teams take the next step. I like the Seahawks. Seahawks are always in the market for one of these corners, and they're definitely specifically in the market for a slot corner. He plays both. But he is an elite slot corner. So the Seahawks get him. They take that extra step towards the Super Bowl, which they think they can get. So I think they're more likely. Definitely think they're more likely. I think the Cowboys are in the market for a corner, but I think they have too many of those guys that are kind of like hybrid. Are they a slot corner? Are they outside? The Texans are going to show up in a lot of these because they have the cap space and they have the need. But do they have the ammo? And the Bills, we talked about why them. I'd say the Seahawks and the Eagles. The Panthers are kind of a wild card. The defense played pretty well, but they can definitely get better. They instantly get better with this and take the defense to another level. The Bucks would have to make some space in terms of their cap space. I like the Seahawks and I like the Eagles. Two teams to look out for here. If I had to pick one, I'd say the Seahawks make the most sense here for the fit. But I expect him to get traded just because of what's going on in Denver. So we'll see. The next one is Desmond Trufant, another corner, talked about a lot. I think pretty much him, Josh Norman, and Janoris Jenkins, who I didn't really put in here because I really don't think there's any takers. I don't think he has any value at all because of how his play is and because of the cap hit he brings in. It's similar in all these, with all these guys. Trufant is the best of the bunch. I think the Falcons could ask. They would need a fourth-round pick for him. Would I trade a fourth-round pick? Most likely not. Maybe I would equal that value with a fifth and possibly a sixth. I would rather do that possibly. But I think no takers. Again, we see some of the similar teams. You have to have the cap space here. But I say no takers because he's on contract through 2022 and it's pretty hefty. a cap hit through those years. And it's one thing if it's through 2020, 2021, it's that extra year through 2022, and that's rough because it doesn't work out. You're kind of just stuck with a cap hit. If he's off the team, it's some sort of dead cap. So I say no takers. If it's for, if they can somehow get him for a very cheap cost, then definitely takers because he's still a pretty solid corner, even though he's been disappointing recently. It's just that contract's a little rough right now. But the same goes for guys like Norman and Jenkins, but at least those guys are, you can get off of that deal after next year. You're stuck 2022 for this guy, and you don't really know. We don't really know. He's been kind of inconsistent. He's had his very bright moments, but I'd say no takers. The next trade is going to be Xavier Howard. His name has been thrown out there a lot. I'm not really buying into it. I'd say maybe his value is a first-round pick. In my opinion, it's probably more than that. I think he really could be the top corner in football in a few years. I know it's Stephon Gilmore and Jalen Ramsey's spot to lose there, but Howard's coming. I was a big fan of him in the pre-draft process, still a big fan. He's an excellent corner, but I could, some part of me can see the Dolphins, taking a first round for him, just a first round, just to gain another first round pick to make that right move to get their offensive playmakers or their, specifically their quarterback and their offensive lineman, and possibly the new staff, maybe doesn't like him as much as the last, so it's possible, and we see the same cornerback fits over there, but I'm saying no way they should trade him. I should say I would hang on to him. I mean, if it's going to have to be multiple first-round picks, something ridiculous. Sometimes when you have these players, you need to get more than what their value is actually worth, and that's kind of what Xavier Howard is, a young, fantastic corner. I just don't see it happening, but a slight part of me, like I said, the Dolphins, may want another first-round pick, but I no way they should trade him. I just don't see them doing that, but he's come up very recently quite a bit, which is interesting. I think teams have just called the Dolphins since they're kind of unloading a bunch of players, but I think they sent them packing. Next trade, O.J. Howard. The value could be, I heard they may want a second rounder and some. I think really with the lack of production, some other teams might have some leverage here. I think a third round pick and some. And you see the fits there. The Patriots, obvious reasons. They don't have Gronk, and the offense is taking a little bit of a hit because of that. The Cowboys, they have a few pieces at tight end, but they have the cap space and they get better with O.J. Howard. The Bills, they have Dawson Knox. They have a couple other guys, but the offense definitely needs a boost. O.J. Howard, they get better with. The Jags are definitely in the market for a tight end. The Seahawks, with the injuries and trading Nick Van Nett, they're in the market for a tight end. And the Packers are a wild card team. They do have Jimmy Graham, but O.J. Howard is a similar style, but upgrade to Jimmy Graham. We see the drops and the lack of the blocking ability is pretty poor in terms of the effort mainly. So I think the Packers get that much better with him too. I'm mainly looking for the Patriots and the Seahawks. The Seahawks may get desperate for a guy like this. Do they go for a corner or a tight end, and now they may need another offensive lineman? They got to make up their mind there. They're definitely in the market to make a deal before the deadline. I'd say the Patriots, they don't have a second round pick, but I think they can trade a third and a lot more to make this happen. This is just the Patriots move and to turn him into what we thought he would be. It's kind of just a feeling, but Patriots and Seahawks are the main teams to look out for. But it sounds like the Bucs are playing hardball right now. They may want a lot, which is crazy because they haven't been thrilled with him, and he hasn't been thrilled with the Bucs in terms of the production, play time, snaps. So we'll see. The Patriots are not done. They definitely can make a move like this happen. But again, the Seahawks, they don't have Will Dissly, and they're missing him. But what's their confidence level for him staying healthy in the future? Because they have years still to compete for a title. So definitely some teams to keep an eye on for O.J. Howard. It's a hot name. Two more left. Geno Atkins, the Bengals want to unload a lot of players. I think this video was kind of focusing on the big name players. A.J. Green, they've said that they're not trading him. They said over and over again every time a team calls, so I didn't include him. Some other players to look out for, Carlos Dunlap, Tyler Eifert. But Geno Atkins, a big-time player. I think his value is at a second-round pick. He's been dominant. Lacking the production this year. I'm predicting no takers because he's on contract for a few more years still, and it's a lot of money. He's worth the money because he's a really good player, but I think it's risky for other teams. New system. He's not too consistent this year in terms of production, so I think there's just too much risk. Teams listed are teams that could use a D tackle and have the cap space once again. If I had to pick a team, I really don't think that anybody makes a deal. Unless it's for like a two fours, a 4 and a 5. But I don't think the Bengals give it away for that. If I had to choose a team, I'd look at maybe the Colts because of the amount of cap space. The Browns, if they couldn't get a deal with an offensive lineman, that's their first goal. The Raiders need more pass rushers, but these are the teams with the cap space, also somewhat of a need. But I don't think any takers. And the last one here, Robbie Anderson. Could be off. They want the right price. I wouldn't trade a 4th-round pick because he's going to be a free agent. Also has some injury concern, but I'm viewing that's what his value's at. It could be a couple fifths, this year fifth, the future fifth, sixth, something along those lines. But it sounds like they want to trade him for the right price. I'm thinking around a 4. And they could get a compensatory pick, so they don't want to lose that. They got more value than I thought for Leonard Williams too, so then they'd be holding out for something like this. Maybe if it's even a 4th and a 7th. And those are some teams that could use a receiver. I'm hearing that the Saints, the Jags, Packers, and the Seahawks and the Eagles actually are definitely testing the market for a receiver. Haven't heard anything on the Colts and the Panthers. Those teams just have the cap space and could use another one. I think he fits the Panthers. He kind of fits the profile, the type of receiver the Panthers like too. But I'm predicting the Saints here. The Packers definitely need another receiver, especially Devontae Adams' sideline, but they're finding their ways to win. They're using the running backs as receivers, and then it helps the other receivers get open. They're doing just fine. So like I said, they could be in the market for the tight end or receiver, but I don't know if they actually do it because I don't know if it's 100% necessary. But yeah, they could get better at both positions. But the Jags definitely could use another one. They think they could use another one. I think they should stay put. They have a few guys, young guys. They don't have any top tier guy, but Robbie Anderson really isn't a top tier guy. I think it's you go big or you go home in terms of the Jags. You already got quite a few guys like this, guys that always step up, no matter who the quarterback is. So I don't think it's really necessary for them. The Eagles need to focus on other positions. So I'd say the teams that should, number 1, Saints, number 2, probably the Packers, but I think the Saints are definitely most likely. This is kind of the upgrade over Ted Ginn. Another one in there. We can have 2 of them in there alongside Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith. They definitely need another receiver like this, and that makes their offense a lot. It's already good. They don't really need another receiver to be good, but it makes them that much scarier, that much better. The injury concern, kind of gets me. Robbie Anderson seems like it's nothing ever really major, but it's always something, it seems like. So that's what scares me about trading a 4th-round pick, and he's going to be a free agent. But the Saints were, definitely battling for a title. This makes them better, so it's definitely a team to keep an eye out for. So those are 10 big names I want to talk about. A lot more guys on the trading block. We went over a few guys recently. A lot of Falcons guys on the trading block. I did a whole video on the Falcons recently, so go check it out. Thoughts on Matt Ryan as well, what they should do with him. So a lot of videos already on the channel worth looking into, and then a lot more to come. We got weekly predictions, power rankings, more. So please subscribe. Join us for those videos. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.